Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I guess I better get my microphone.
Good mics, okay.
What'd you do here, Huxley? Got that all messed up back there. Okay. First of all, let's start with the agenda. Does anybody have any amendments to the agenda?
No, Chair.
Not here, Madam Chair.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the agenda as written then?
I'll motion to approve the agenda for January 10th, 2018 as written.
Okay,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, so to begin with, we're going to talk about the United States Forest Service no confidence resolution in practices and policies. Commissioner Boyce.
Did we have any public comment slips?
We didn't, but there's so few people here. But if there are some, I'd kind of like to get some public input here, because this is kind of an important
So we want to change
issue.
the policy, or just we want to amend the policy for today?
Well, don't they have to
I
5
would
minutes
say
after?
for today, but I'm going to get permission from all of you.
Okay.
Just on this one issue,
On which issue?
the resolution.
I would not, because I've received emails saying, I realize that you don't accept public comments today, so here's some written things I won't attend because I can't submit sub-public comments, because that's been our policy. So to change it for those people that have already emailed, we're going to be
That's
consistent.
yeah.
That
is kind of unfair.
and I don't see some of those individuals here because of that, and that is the subject of the email that I received.
I'm going to concur with that, Madam Chair.
Okay, I concur also. Thank you for your
Okay.
input. Okay, so moving on, Commissioner Boyce, do you want to take over on this? And then I'm
Well,
sure there'll
thank
be
you,
some
Madam
comments.
Chair. Everything good comes from our forest, and you see this, and we've been hit so hard by the Chetco Bar fire, and the amount of acreages that we have lost in the last 16 years. When you look at a healthy forest and the benefits that can come to the local communities, it is a tremendous advantage that Oregon has. As you know, we have the highest quality, fastest growing trees in the world, and right now we're harvesting less than 15% of the annual growth of those trees within our state. And so what happens, as you know, as we've learned over the years, that accelerated growth has a lot of ground fuels, and those are highly volatile, and those fires become mega fires. I made the point the last meeting we had that just since the 90s, the amount of acreage we've lost in Oregon is 4 times what it was 20 or 30 years ago. This has affected our water. It has certainly affected our wildlife. It has certainly affected our tourism. And what we keep hearing is learn to live with fires, do the defensible space. Certainly that has some very critical merit. As you know, we're working on fire-resistant communities, fire-wise neighborhoods, and the defensible space program. That takes time and money. There are some in the environmental community that have brought us to the point to where we are harvesting so little of a portion of our trees. And with that, it has been devastating to small communities, certainly to our community. And the federal government has a responsibility through payment in lieu of taxes when they essentially took over our lands. And when you look at 191,000 acres we just lost just in that fire, very few people accept that as good management, good forest practices. So, Madam Chair, Board, welcome, Councilor. We have spent quite a bit of time revising the last resolution, no confidence, that we offered the last meeting. We've had some other good citizen input that I think you have all been able to review and are equally appreciative. So you have before you the different approaches. Curry County, through just the businesses that have lost property, the homes that have been destroyed, it's almost 20,000 acres, well, no, excuse me, almost 16,000 acres of private timberland that we lost, in addition to our, what I've referred to as our sacred public lands. And so in that, we need a new approach. What we have today from the Curry Wildfire Prevention Group is an extensive document. I understand that some folks would think it's probably too long, too extensive. It needs to be shortened. However, we offer this as an additional draft today. Certainly not complete nor refined, nor has it taken into consideration the other local citizens that have offered input. And I think that's important. So if we could get a general direction from the board, Madam Chair, to understand that the reason we're offering a 4-page document here that also references the Wild and Scenic River System, which I think a lot of us are quite familiar with, and also the National Forest Practices Act, which is included in this document, that shows and demonstrates to the managing agencies what they're bound by, and I think that's really important, and it adds, certainly I believe, some credibility to why we've taken this approach, and why I think we're going to need to lead Oregon in this, and Oregon can lead the rest of the state. I'm not putting that responsibility on our shoulders. However, we had by far the largest forest fire, not the largest fire, but the largest forest fire in America this year. And it's hard to believe that we could, in total acreages, in particular in the western United States, the 11 western states, it is, we eclipsed 2015 for the total acres. So what I'm going to propose to the board today is a consensus of, we'll take all of these documents, the Curry Wildfire Prevention Group can come back and say we have incorporated all these. May Administrator Hitt require another workshop? I don't know. There is an urgency here. Other states around because again, we had the largest fire in Oregon by far, largest forest fire, excuse me, well, both. Just the sheer amount of devastation, again, 191,000 acres. I think we can bring that back and do some additional work on this and offer it again, and maybe it can be accepted, or maybe it would require another workshop. Maybe it would require additional public input. Thank you.
Administrator Hitt.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Just for a point of clarification, in your agenda packet is included a revised resolution from the one that was before you at your last meeting. I revised that based on, to some degree, the public input that we received during that meeting, as well as trying to retain the overall thrust or orientation of the existing, of the then and still existing resolution of no confidence. You have also, however, which I think Commissioner Boyce was mostly referring to, another resolution, another draft, which says on page 3 of that draft, it says Forest Plan of 1994, and this was submitted, I think yesterday, if I recall correctly, might have been the day before, but after your agenda packet went out, It says, and then also attached to that or stapled to that is 5 key principles of the NFP, Northwest Forest Plan. So there's that draft. There's another draft we got, I forget, either yesterday or the day before, from Tim Palmer, which is the one page, although printing on both sides. And it says, besides before the Curry County Commissioners, this is regarding Checkcoat Bar Fire of 2017. Then there was also just, which we received, I believe this morning, an email comment from Bill Blackwell regarding not referring to any particular draft, just to the overall concept of the resolution of no confidence. So regarding Commissioner Boyce's comments, I would prefer, if you want to proceed with this, and that's a question, you three will have to decide, but if you want to proceed with this, I would recommend we work on specific language today rather than scheduling it for another workshop, so that staff can bring it back to you in a more or less final version for either your next board meeting, general board meeting, or the one after that. If it's your choice either to kind of go with the draft that was included with your agenda packet or one of these two other drafts, then you can certainly give staff that direction. You kind of want a resolution a la Tim Palmer, or a resolution a la, I'll just call it the Forest Plan of 1994, then that's fine too, and staff can work on that and bring it back, but I'd rather bring it back at our general meeting for your willingness perhaps to proceed and formally adopt such a resolution or potentially reject such a resolution. And again, if board directs to do another workshop, obviously we'll certainly do that and do the necessary work to prepare for that. But I would rather see you decide today how you would like staff to proceed, and then put it on a general meeting agenda for a decision in the near future.
Did you have any comments, Commissioner Huxley?
I have many.
Well, keep it brief.
Well, it won't be brief. It will be factual. It will be constructive, but it won't be brief.
That's okay. Let's get it out.
Okay. I have a couple of supplemental materials that I did receive. One started, I understand there's no public comment on the workshop, therefore. Okay.
Okay, that's fine.
This one is from a Peg Reagan. I've also included the cover email and the comments.
Did
The
she send that
second
to all
one,
commissioners? Because I didn't have a chance
no
to go
idea.
through. Yeah, I didn't have a
idea.
chance to go through my
Okay.
If it's
email
since
today.
the
Because they
last
can send
general
it
meeting,
to individual people, so I
They
can't
can.
answer, I can't answer that question.
Okay,
I
because
received
I did not
one. I
get
don't
one,
know.
but I was
Okay.
I
unable
need to know if it was recent or,
Well,
Perhaps 10 days
it'll
old.
be in the record, so I'm just entering this
Okay,
into the
thank you.
record. So,
I did
Chair,
receive something from,
I'm entering both of these into the record as supplemental. One thing that, the point that seems that we're getting to here, and I disagree with it, is that it's like now we've convinced somebody we absolutely need a resolution. I'm not at all convinced that we need a resolution. Okay, so that's my position at this point, and then I'll present some facts, where we have people now consuming a lot of their time trying to revise something because they feel like, uh-oh, we're going to have one. No, we don't have to have a resolution. Just quickly, because we don't read the comments that come in, and they can't comment at the workshop anyway, but I'm going to just read just a few key, I think, very right-on points that are in this document from Peg Reagan. Has staff confirmed all the figures in the resolution? Then to something down here on another, whereas this is not true. If we think it's true, what is it based on other than Commissioner Boyce saying so? I'm quoting here, okay? What about the lightning? What about the wind? The governing body, here was another whereas, governing body has no confidence. Do you really think this is true? If so, why the upper and middle management when earlier it was the local and regional leadership in the prior version? This resolution purports to dislike. Does each commissioner know enough about the management and staff that we're saying are, at that point, we're incompetent? If one of you does, he can send an individual letter stating to the Secretary of Agriculture with the board, without the board taking a position. So each commissioner can do something individually. Another one, demand sounds like a spoiled little kid. Again, I'm quoting, I'm not paraphrasing. Be it further resolved, we cannot prevent forest fires unless someone knows how to stop lightning strikes, and we decide we want to keep all humans out of the federal forests. This had to do with salvage. A study of the Biscuit Fire published in Science magazine in 2006 showed that salvage logging kills large numbers of seedlings and increased the short-term danger of wildfires. She goes on, okay. And then open public access roads, what does this have to do with increasing fire safety? Again, you read the whole thing, I thought it was very constructive versus destructive on the comments. They were very good comments.
So, Mr. Oxley, do we have is that something you offered through, you just handed out?
That's what I just handed in.
Thank
I'm
you.
just reading
I thought so.
verbatim.
Understood.
Well, I highlighted, but it's just exactly the same document that I just handed into the record. Exactly the same. I just, because we should not read and have agreed we won't read the entire document, that's why I wanted to preface by saying I was just picking a few points in the document. I thought it was very well done. What I have also is I took the video from the last meeting on the 3rd on this particular topic, and I took little clips and I put together about 8.5, call it 9 minutes clip of that video, and I would like to show that because I think it goes absolutely to a lot of these things where there are statements made with no backup, no foundation, no proof. There are allegations made, incorrects. There was a couple of really keepers as far as incorrect statements. So that's what I would like to do. And it would take, as I say, the video clips are approximately 9 minutes. So if I may, at this point,
That's
do that,
fine.
Chair. And Charles? I'm sorry.
Charles?
Will I be able to pause the video? Could you ask Charles if I can, well, or just the mouse, just
Here,
so
he's coming.
Well, I'd like to, if I can, when the video starts, if I will be able to pause it. So, okay, we're going to go off this versus the.
So it's going to be considerably longer than a 9-minute
no.
video? Okay.
No. Let me just. So it's about 10:15. Let's go. Glasses on so I can see. Okay, so we don't have audio, so that's all way up, so we don't have audio.
Yeah, we certainly don't want to miss this
Audio.
part.
Yeah. So, where's John Jesuit? How do we get audio? The audio's all the way up there. Do we need we need the video on? Ah. Thank you.
Sure glad Charles is here.
So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I agree. Oh, still not working.
Do we have any lip readers?
How did you edit this?
Huh?
It's the editor.
No, it's not. I mean, it
I'm
plays
kidding.
WMV,
This sure isn't very entertaining so far.
MP4. played this file, so I know it has audio on it.
Good thing this is a workshop.
Mm-mm.
We can hardly hear it. It's just coming out of the laptop, isn't it?
Sounds
It's not
like it,
coming out of the
yeah.
audio.
Sounds like it's just a
I'm
laptop.
trying to confirm that has audio on.
The start of the
There
fire.
we go.
You can see it is very.
Cool.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
It's gone over 3 on the check the bar, the silver, and of course, the biscuit fire. And 1.8 million acres within the Road 60 National Forest for 15 years. And I've got some pictures of acres lost in Oregon, and I think it's even a higher rate for Curry County. But it's 4 times what it was in the 90s. This is the start of the fire. You can see it is very rugged terrain. We had helicopters standing by. I challenged the local district ranger to hit.
Again, this is just an example of what Peg Reagan had said, and I agree. We make statements, but I've seen nothing that from anyone that shows me that there were helicopters standing by. I won't continue with all those examples, but this is an example.
So you
can't
disagree
just-
that there's helicopters standing by?
I'm just saying we make statements, we should have
I don't have
facts.
pictures of the
Okay.
helicopters, but carry on.
I thought I had, do I have the
Yeah,
floor,
go ahead.
Commissioner Gold?
Yeah, go
Thank-
ahead.
Thank you.
Big fire was still under 100 acres with absolutely everything they had. And she had full authority, and that's been confirmed. When the fire was about 100 acres, because of the terrain, they decided to set up, and this has been confirmed, a 6-mile distance from each side of the fire. So
Another
that
example.
leads many people to believe that they were going to let it burn. No chainsaws. The river's at the bottom of the shadow part of the picture there. And when it was that small, not hit with those helicopters, again, they were available. And then you know what happened as it moved toward the Brookings. The concern we have is that we, again, will be looking at this down the road. It could be next year, it could be 10 years from now. But it's still our kid's future. It is incredible the amount of wildlife that was absolutely incinerated, and we have to make a stand. And so that's this resolution. If I had it to do over again, I would have been on about the 14, 15, 16. I didn't get action on that part of the fire at that level it was then. I would absolutely call it the Oregon Park and Forestry, and I could even be liable for not doing it to get involved in this fire. And again, because it's wilderness area, the rules are different. I know people believe that the Forest Service doesn't have a let it burn policy, but there are radical environmentalists who force that policy on the Forest Service, and that's well documented.
Again, it's an opinion.
Here, including these ridges, this is kind of looking northeast. The house gone, so a little bit of timber here.
This is an opinion too.
And these folks didn't so much even get a card of condolence from the folks that lost their home from the Forest Service. If that's interpreted as an anti-Forest Service, the Forest Service people that I know, especially here locally, they want to grow big, beautiful trees and wonderful forests. They know this is wrong. Radical environmental groups here that have got us in this situation. Okay.
But when this fire was young and new, we had a Forest Service supervisor that had no clue.
Again, this is, I might not pronounce the name correct. I believe it's Mr., is it Berlin? Am I close?
Ireland.
Byerlin, thank you. An opinion, somebody has no clue. Okay.
Yeah, you said that to me in a couple meetings.
Okay. I believe, Chair, I
Okay.
still have the floor.
or Commissioner Huxley still has the floor.
And she chose to save the salamanders and the snails rather than saving the forest and the rest of the residents of Curry County. Every 5 to 7 years, they run a new Forest Service supervisor. They don't want them to be here too long. And you mark my words, you go back the last 30 years and see that. And we had the problem in the guiding in is we have to recreate the forester every time a new one came in. And what we did, what kind of services we supplied, how we were a benefit to the national forest system. This fire could have been put out easily or controlled easily. We had 3 helicopters, Morrissey Sky Crane sitting on the ground, measured, dumped 23,000 gallons of water per load.
Now, we've dumped 23,000 gallons per load. That is false. There is no such machine on this earth that can do that. And I will,
No, you're right on that.
I will please add this into the public record. No machine can do maybe perhaps 1/8 or 10% or so of that. Again, it goes to, you either make statements correct, opinions with verification backing up your opinions. There's nothing wrong with an opinion so long as you have facts to base it, to back it up. Okay.
I think that was a slip of the tongue.
Okay.
Douse that fire in a quarter of an acre. She chose not to do that, anywhere near the forest, because she was afraid that it would harm the invertebrates underground. And a lot more in the county. But this kind of behavior has to stop. And Tina's a nice person, but in my talks with her, she was clueless. She did learn.
She was clueless. An opinion, but no facts.
You know, and they can be chalked up to the stakes. Not anything was malicious. But you folks need to be our line and be able to help people.
This road right here, going up the road, this is Cape Road.
This also just for future, for Administrator Hitt and all of us here at with the commissioners, when you can see here, when the speaker went to just got her voice away a little bit from those microphones we lost, we were very difficult to hear her. Just so for future to make sure, or to be us more conscious to ask them to grab the microphone so that we can hear them clear.
Madam Chair, can we stay on that picture for just a moment? Thank you.
No, I'd like to.
He wants to continue. Let him finish his presentation.
This is a workshop.
There, Sunday morning.
We can come back. It's 5 minutes.
Within view of 9 properties, right there, full of water, while other Forest Service persons, first contractors were going down the road to the river. Not one drop of water. If you can see, there's a lot of physical space around. As with all of us, we've lived out there for years. We know that we gotta protect ourselves. We know we have to take care of ourselves. Our families have fought fires for years. They've never been the mega fires is not every 15 years. The biscuit fires out there, we went through that. The silver fire, every 15 years, no. Right over here is Penny and Doreen's house. Penny and Doreen's house had a green ribbon on it because it was defensible. That meant people could protect that house. My daughter's house had a green ribbon on it. It was protectable. You could come and fight, you could defend the house. But you know what? Those people left before noon. My last picture of our property was at 3:43, I think. I come out the road, all of us left at 3:54. She was gone. There wasn't a soul in sight. We get down to the bottom of the hill, down at the bottom of where the upper technical school is. There must have been 100 of them lined up there, just sitting there. Not a one of them out there fighting the fire. So I realize you might think that this proposal is wrong, but we lived it. We were there. We've seen the winds. The Bear report come out with 10 to 15 mile an hour winds with 25 mile an hour gusts. I'm sorry.
Just a quick comment too, and this is more for our help internally. I have one at my office that's mine. We should have in here when we do these things a laser pointer. So it would make it much more helpful for any presenter. And that may show up too, on the screen. I think I'm not positive, but that's just an internal suggestion for us. This also has been, because there were very constructive points in some of these comments here. This was also just late yesterday given to the Forest Service so they can look at it and try and act constructively, not destructively, on citizen comments with a goal of improving things. We're almost done here.
Which is the sheriff's office with District Ranger, and as I said, the state of Oregon has a tremendous record of putting out fires, and there are facts that go with this. We're becoming polite, and it's not based on opinion. 6-mile radius on each side demonstrates to me there was no intention to put that fire out. If you just take that one fact and put it on the front line and say, okay, here it is. Why? Helicopter.
Again, that's an opinion. It's strictly an allegation.
So, and one mentioned that you can't stop that fire. Well, it could have been stopped. You have to stop July fires early, or you won't get a chance. And that's where we're at, and that's what happened. And this time, with the additional fuel load down to dead trees, it'll do the exact same thing. We don't change policies. And so this is the reinforcers table, and we can't give them a fourth shot and not put the fires out.
So question, aren't they already at the table right now? We're talking about
How?
mistakes that were made. We need to
They're saying they tried to put it out within 15. They initially attacked that fire within 15. I don't agree with that. If they did, they didn't put the right people on it.
Again, you either did attack it in whatever time or you didn't. You can't say you did this, but no, the next sentence, you didn't do that. But again, that's another reason that this was given to the Forest Department so that they can see it and come back, I would hope, with confirmation one way or the other. But it's meant for them as a constructive tool.
The ranger here had the final say, according to her own words. She repeated to me twice that up to a certain acreage, up to a certain amount of funds expended, she had the authority. And yes, it was about fighter safety. Nobody disputed that. And I have emails to back and support her on that. But to say that there was protective action, absolutely not, to take this fire out.
Okay, so that's the 8.5 or 8 3/4 minute clip. So, and more for my position that I do not believe until we verify if that's what we want to do, we don't go down with unsubstantiated anything in making a document full of opinions that may or may not be accurate. Okay.
Well, I strongly
Okay, so that's mine.
I strongly think that if we are going to put a resolution forth, biting the hand that feeds you, like the Forest Service, is a huge mistake. We need to work with them to possibly change policies. I think our forests are different than all of the forests in the United States. They have a one policy fits all for all of the forests, and I think it needs to be, looked at individually. Tim Palmer, I thought he had a very good statement here. He said, and whereas unfortunate errors in judgment, strategy, and process may have occurred during the fires, rather than accusing them you know, you did all this. I think they would be willing to work with us if they realized there were mistakes that were made. I think most people can admit to mistakes, but when you just say, we have no confidence in you, let's fire everybody, that type of thing, I think we're just going out on a limb there. So if we were to have a resolution, I think we need to incorporate, like Commissioner Huxley said, we need to be sure that it's based on fact, and possibly look at Tim Palmer's resolution that he's put forth, because I thought he had a lot of good things in there. I thought there were a lot of good things in the original resolution. I think we need to maybe blend them. That would be if we're going to have a resolution, my recommendation would be to do that. Did you have any other comments?
Well, yes, thank you, Madam Chair. You know, the resolution we did on the 23rd that you and Commissioner Huxley signed, which I appreciated, and I was absent and was not in favor of it till the facts came in, but it was well written. I'll just read two quick paragraphs to share. The Board of Curry County Commissioners hereby further resolves. The Sheriff of Curry County, the Curry County Department of Emergency Management, and Fire Chief Jim Watson are authorized to take all actions necessary and proper for administering the conflagration emergency, including but not limited to communicating with state agencies, assessing the situation, requesting resources, and directing resources as needed. The Sheriff, the Emergency Management Department, and the Fire Chief may delegate these authorized powers as necessary to carry out their intended purposes. I didn't say fire everybody. I did ask at that time, when we realized how disorganized this situation was, when they're right there with water tanks and don't want to help folks put out their fires in their homes. I mean, I just don't know how that doesn't require an immediate resolution to send the word out. The original resolution certainly covered that we want to work with state agencies, we want to work with other counties, we want to get these policies changed. I haven't heard the Forest Service, under any circumstances, say they made mistakes.
Well,
And
you know,
I want to offer one more thing here. The original daily fire reports, daily duty forms, are nowhere to be found. And we're trying to get those through Curry Wildfire Protection. And if we don't, this is going to require FOIA. I think I'm not speaking for my group right now. My hunch is they would rather not do the FOIA process, but that is incredibly important, critical information so that we can get the facts. I'm sorry about Mr. Byerland making the comment about I think that was just I think it's 2,300 gallons. I honestly don't know, but that's what I suspect. Just one more, and then I will give way, Madam Chair. I don't know how many of these fires Curry County can live with. I'm surprised that through this board and the devastation that we've witnessed, that we're even talking about if we need a resolution to go out and be promoted so that we can overcome, lower the risk, lessen the odds of having especially a reburn. Frankly, I hope I'm wrong, but I think it's going to be far sooner than 15 years, because now we have, as I said in that video, dead trees, thousands of acres. You saw the pictures there where it goes forever. That's our bank account. That this, I firmly believe, and we will get you the facts. And if I eat my words, have to eat my words and apologize for good management, then I will be glad to do that. And Bill Blackwell's letter, I worked with him in the 90s. I have great respect for him. What I witnessed, though, and what the other counties and the Oregon Department of Forestry are observing and witnessing over the years, is that they do come together and they do have a coordinated story. And I can only work so hard. Our people are volunteering and they're trying to be very responsible, non-assuming, non-judgmental, and trying to get you the facts.
Okay, let me
Meanwhile,
just-
the next fire season's only 5 months away, and we better be prepared this time.
Let me just say a couple of things. When all of this was going on, Jerry Lynn Thompson wrote me a letter about what had happened at her place. And immediately, I wrote a letter to the Forest Service explaining what had happened in her area, that some of the people were not allowed to go in there that knew the area, and some of the forest people didn't even know where to go to fight the fires. So when I put that forth at one of the meetings, as I recall, Commissioner Boyce, you would not sign it, but Commissioner Huxley did. Also, they may have learned a lesson simply because of what happened in some of the other fire districts. I know Cape Farello for one, because I'm very involved in that fire district, and I am the president of that fire district, and I asked the fire people there how the cooperation was going with the Forest Service, and they said, very well. And so possibly there was a learning moment there, but I feel very strongly we need to work with these people on getting the policies changed. And by sticking them hard, I don't think that's the way to go about it.
Well, you mentioned, excuse me, I'm sorry.
I'm done.
Well, you made the comment that don't bite the hand that feeds us. That's not the situation we should be in. These are our forests too, and we have an equal responsibility to sit at
Right,
the table.
and so we need to work
maybe the
with
head of the
them.
table so that we can look our citizens in the eye and say, yeah, we're taking every precaution to not let this happen again. There's no guarantees. Nobody that I work with is against or understands or lacks understanding in a normal burn cycle. These are not normal burn cycles. We have got to understand that we have a battle before us. There's many of us that said this in June, and here it came, and we lost a fifth of our county. And
Let me just read a couple more statements that were in
Sure.
the possible resolution from Tim Palmer that I thought were very good. Here, therefore, be it resolved that Curry County Board of Commissioners requests that the Forest Service conduct an investigation and review of its response to the recent fires with the intent to improve its response in the future. I think that's a very strong statement and defensible. Also, that Curry County Board of Commissioners urges the U.S. Congress to assure that adequate funding be provided for the U.S. Forest Service and BLM to better prevent and avoid future forest fires and to prepare for an effective response to small fires before they become mega fires. To me, that's a positive statement, something that can be worked upon. Also, I got another piece of information from a lady that said, this was from David and Dee Ragsdale. And she said, according to the Forest Service Fire Chief, Tony Took, more than 55% of Forest Service budget now goes towards firefighting, up from 15% over the past years. Wouldn't it
Repeat
be
that, please.
better?
I'm sorry.
She said more than 55% of Forest Service budget now goes towards firefighting. That would be rather than fire prevention. And I think that's one of the things we need to work on. Fire prevention rather than putting all the money towards firefighting. So that's my thing. What we need to do is look at the root causes of all of this rather than pointing fingers. We need to work together to get this problem solved.
You keep saying, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, you keep saying pointing fingers, and maybe I'm guilty of that. Maybe I'm passionate enough about this that I see the risk so great of having additional fires. When you look at lack of money, it's costing $2 billion a year to fight the fires throughout the western United States. We still don't know what the final tragic tally is in California. But unless we harvest at least a greater portion of the amount that the forests are growing, we've not seen anything yet. And we can't afford to do rehabilitation and reforestation unless we have reasonable timber sales. And they're locking it all off. And it's incredibly detrimental to this county, to our county. Unless we have reasonable harvest, we're not going to see Congress come running through and say, okay, we're going to have all the mega fires. We'll have plenty of money to fight it. The communities will be benefit. And meanwhile, how many people are going to die or homes burned up? And we sit here going, well, we don't want to point a finger because until we get the facts. We are getting the facts, and it is, I don't know how we can be in denial of this. The danger, the risk, with everything else we're dealing with in this county, we can at least get this correct.
Well, I like the idea of allocating money towards prevention rather than towards firefighting. And I think Senator Merkley and Wyden are in the process of putting something like that together at this point in time. Do you have a comment, Commissioner?
I have a comment not
Huxley?
related to, just the dialogue back and forth, and a quick question, but my comment was, you've referenced Tim Palmer's document. I don't know if that's the same one that he sent to all three commissioners. That was one of the documents I included, one of the two I put into the record. The only thing that I did, you mentioned, Administrator Hitt, that it was 2 pages. I just changed the font size and put it on 1 page. So when you see it, don't think, it was manipulated or anything, but it's smaller font. And the other, and Commissioner Boyce, you had made a comment, and I know this was a large, horrific fire. Was this then the largest fire in the country for that last year?
The largest forest fire, Montana,
Okay.
had a 270,000 acre fire, cost $6 million to fight. This fire cost $78 million to fight.
Because the reason I asked, and I don't want to.
Do you understand the largest forest fire? I mean, we have to differentiate there.
Are we
what a
talking
forest fire
acres
or
or
not.
are we talking
Montana
money?
was basic.
I think for the
Because-
point of making the record, only one person
Yeah.
should talk at a
Thank
time.
you.
I apologize.
Yeah.
The Thomas fire, because my son lives in Ventura, California, and they also had what we called, I've lived there for years, Santa Anas or east winds. It's the same thing as the Chetco effect. That burned, it was 275 or it pushed 300,000 acres. That's the reason I questioned when you said it was the largest, because the Thomas fire I've read is the largest in California history as a single fire. And that was also in the same year, so I would question the.
What year, may I ask?
Well, it was going on just a month ago or so.
So it is this year, yes. Excuse me.
Both were 2017 years.
You understand the difference between a wildland fire and a forest fire, though?
One was 275 or 300,000 acres, and it burned a lot of forest areas. The other was 200,000 acres. Okay, so I'm just saying it's.
Okay, any other comments?
Thank you, Chair.
Madam Chair, one of the things I would just make a couple of generic comments. One is regarding the nature of resolutions. Resolutions are not formal documents. They're not judicial type documents. They're not ordinances. They are statements, basically, in my experience, primarily of opinion or a concern that the local body wants to convey to their elected officials or other governmental entities. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't be careful in crafting the document. Of course, you should still be careful. But I would not suggest or recommend, unless you so direct me, that I pursued a series of investigations to determine, for example, whether it's 680,000 federally protected acres or is it 675,000 federally protected acres. I have no idea. I could find out, but in my view, it's not worth my time, and again, unless you as commissioner so direct me, to factually verify everything that's in any of the drafts. Now, Mr. Palmer's is the most generic, but even he has some specific information, and I know Mr. Palmer's a very knowledgeable man. I would tend to trust that his statements are correct, but again, in my view, a resolution is not that kind of formal, exacting document. It's more of a statement of concern and or a statement of possible recommendations to other bodies or other elected officials. But the other comment regarding, what is factual, what isn't factual, you've all seen examples of where a mock crime is staged, and then people are interviewed. Well, what really happened? And even a relatively simple mock crime that transpires usually over just a few minute period of time, you usually get radically different views of what really happened and how did it happen and why did it happen. In my own relatively brief conversations with responsible officials whose opinions, professional opinions, I would trust and value, I've gotten, not surprisingly, like much of you have, some very different perspectives as to what happened or didn't happen, or why things should or should not have been handled differently. So again, I would just, final point, recommend that you as commissioners decide whether you want to have a redraft along with some of your recommendations, Madam Chair, along with some of the other comments that have been made by Commissioner Boyce and Commissioner Huxley, come back to you at a future meeting, or whether you want to, as seems to be Commissioner Huxley's preference, just to simply not take any further action.
Okay, well, let's see what people want.
Madam Chair,
May I just make one quick response to?
Mhm.
Within reason, I agree with you, but the example you used was 680,000 versus 685,000.
Right.
If you tell me 1.5 million versus 600,000,
Understand.
we're
Right, understand.
we're wrong. We should not publish that.
Right.
So, and we usually know if a statement should have verifiable facts to support it or not, based on what the subject of the statement is. Thank
I
you.
understand.
Thank you.
Okay,
thank
so.
you, Madam Chair.
Yes.
We're all in agreement with what you just offered, Commissioner Huxley. I just want to make one quick comment about salvage. Did I hear today that salvage logging destroys seedlings? I mean, I need scientific information on that backup, as the ground is so scorched, and what we're hearing from the Bear Report is only about 30%. And when you talk to people that have lived here all their life, they're very anxious to challenge those figures. Scorched earth, severely burned soil, has no seedlings, and may not come back for a long time. Meanwhile, the county sits here and watches trees rot, or at least that's what happened at the Biscuit Fire. And people that, I'm going to just fiercely defend the people that I've worked with that volunteer their time and are working day and night to get the proper facts. And when you tell them that salvage logging is, well, we're sitting at 13,000 acres, which is about 8% of the total burn. And as you know, incidentally, about half the burn is within the wilderness area. A reburn, unfortunately, we just lost 16 years of very, very slow healing, if any. And so to say that we can't even do 10% of the salvage of the timber we have there, and in starting the rehabilitation, reforestation process, watershed, wildlife, everything, that is just astonishing to the people that I'm working with. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner
To
Huxley.
answer, at least, and I say not that I'm knowledgeable to answer, but I'll read further on just this one short paragraph to your question as far as the seedlings. Because I only read one or two sentences in that area, but it said, quote, "A study of the Biscuit Fire published in Science magazine in 2006 showed that salvage logging kills large numbers of seedlings and increased the short-term danger of wildfires." And it went on, I had not read this, it went on to say an OSU study showed the Biscuit Fire burned more severely in areas that had been salvage logged previously. There are a variety of other studies. Let me know if you want to see more. So that was,
There's a scientist by the name of Sessions, if I may, that greatly disputes the studies you just referenced there at Oregon State. And I will offer too that in the Biscuit Fire, we were told by the managing agencies and the environmental groups that held the control on that there would be some reasonable work done. And that devastation, it just ain't so. And you know what the results were and where we are right now. And so, yes, Curry County people are saying, we don't want to accept that anymore.
Commissioner
Again, my
Huxley?
comments in reading that were not to say that I am expert and I agree or I disagree, but this is a perfect example, in my opinion, of someone who is professional, lays it out as far as some additional support for the statements in a non-confrontational way and says, please, if you would like more information, let me know and I'll provide more. That's all and that's the way I would like to see this entire thing work, back and forth.
Okay, any other comments? So, question, how do you want to proceed? I think, well, how do you want to proceed, Commissioner Boyce?
You know, the people that I'm working with, again, I think they have tremendous credibility. Well, I won't mention any names. They've offered testimony. They've offered substantial work through this 3 or 4 page resolution. I appreciate the confirmation from Administrator Hitt that this is a direction. This is almost a challenge to the Forest Service, the state of Oregon, other counties, that here's what just happened here, and here is our efforts to remedy this. If you do no more than go back to the 1994 Northwest Forest Plan, it's very specific on how they're to protect the rivers. It's very specific on what the amount of harvest should be. It is a plan through the Clinton administration that took months and months and months to get done. So was it best for Curry County? No, but it is the law, and if we follow that law, there's a good chance that despite it was a lightning fire, the Checo Bar fire would not have happened. The Forest Service does not have money for thinning, and the deer populations are way down. There's a variety of reasons that we have way too many ground fuels, and the people of this county are at risk, a great risk, and we saw how close it came in August.
So
That's all I have.
question, are you in favor of a
I'm sorry,
resolution
yes.
or no?
That was a
Okay, so you are in favor, and
Absolutely.
my suggestion would be to possibly include something in the, where we ask them what now therefore let it be resolved. Look at the forest plan, abide by that.
I will take Mr. Palmer's and the existing one that we have, and also the note from Bill Blackwell. That has value, very much so in my opinion, and Mr. Hitt's 1 page that I have here somewhere, and I will bring something back. Were you going?
I was going to ask if you were also going to add the materials that were submitted today.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I mean, we're talking hours of work here for a group of about 5 or 6 people, and you know, I will challenge them. I will depend on them. I trust them, and they are very knowledgeable and very concerned for their future and their children's future and the county's future. So if I could bring that back to you, I don't know if we can get it done in a week, but yes, I would definitely want to include that information, and thank you. I don't think it'll be 4 or 5 pages, though. I think we'll shorten it up a little bit.
I always like that. I'm in favor of a resolution, but I think it needs to include a lot of other stuff.
Okay.
So
And if you have anything you want to add to that, if I may.
I think what you said was fine.
Okay.
I think those people who have submitted information, we need to value that information.
I agree.
Commissioner Huxley.
I think the time is better spent in interfacing constructively back and forth with the people that to this point we've been attacking and making unfounded, unverifiable statements. to
I don't
guard
think the
against.
resolution needs to
So
be.
Anyway, you asked me what my opinion was.
Yeah, I don't think it needs to be attacking. If we
Oh, no,
if
I'm
we
just
do
saying,
that, I think we're defeating the whole purpose.
I don't think we need a resolution at this time. That's my position.
So
because
it looks
of what
like 2 out of the 3 want to have a resolution come forth.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay,
Could I ask a question?
sure.
Thanks. I've just been listening, and again, the last time we talked about this resolution, I also mentioned my opinion was that it was more or less a policy statement and a request and not so much a binding area of law, and I thought it was more policy than legal in nature. Certainly you want to be factually accurate. I did not do fact checking. I also checked, we didn't include the facts of the 23,000 gallons in our resolution, so I don't know that that's a apples to apples comparison, but regardless, if you are asking for a resolution to be prepared, I anticipate that would take staff time. I did not work on a preparation. I know County Administrator Hitt did for this, but I didn't add any time into preparing any materials for this work session today. But if I could, it seems like there's a theme in this resolution, and one is, you know, we have seen ourselves and we have heard complaints that, you know, there's, I'm sorry, where there's smoke, there's fire. But regardless, it seems like there seems to be facts indicating things could have been done differently, things could have been done better, things were mishandled, or that's theme number one. We're not really satisfied with how this was handled based on what we've heard and what we've seen. Whether we want to really, how we want to phrase that, and it sounds like we want to make these very acceptable statements and whatnot. Whether we get into detailed area of facts, I think one or two facts is good to support, facts that are easily verifiable. I think between Administrator Hitt, myself, Commissioner Boyce, and the folks who are contributing, I don't think we want to spend a bunch of time, you know, doing a scientific study of the fire. So one though, first, you know, theme, not satisfied. We think things could have been done differently. And then the second theme is, please do some, you know, internal looking at how this was handled at the local level, and then look at how our local needs compare to your national policies. And for those things, we want to look at what are your policies on fighting, putting out fires early, et cetera, and also prevention versus suppression, you know, loss prevention versus loss control, and then also a salvage issue. But are there, and then we want to be, I guess, part of the conversation. We want to, there's always been in every draft, and I know in the early drafts I said, well, Commissioner Boyce early draft even said, we want to work with you on these things. But in the meantime, it also said, we'd like to call for the jobs of some people. And I understand what you're still asking though, is for them. Is the board, with your, so I've got two commissioners who would like a resolution. Does part of that say to investigate, you know, how it was handled, decisions that were made, decision makers? I mean, do we want to, that might be one of the big issues in bringing back a future draft, is how hard does the board want to recommend they focus on their internal personnel? Because the first draft was a no confidence on personnel. Commissioner Gold, I didn't know that you want to have that in a draft coming back, or if you want to add that as in a less perhaps demanding or confrontational way.
Well, let me just say this. If I were to get a resolution that said, we don't want to work with you, we don't feel any confidence in you whatsoever, do you think they're going to want to work with us? I don't think so.
Sure. But the
At least I
examination,
wouldn't.
I guess the examination of the personnel, do we want to ask them to examine their personnel performance?
I think that's kind of implied.
Okay.
What we need to do is investigate mistakes that were made. That
Okay.
tells us that maybe
Okay.
you better look at your personnel.
All right. Okay.
And that sort of thing. I thought Tim
Right.
Palmer's statement was very good in that area.
Yeah, when you read it, it sounded very, again, general enough that it wouldn't, you know, offend the folks we're trying to communicate with here.
Yeah, if we want to work with these folks, we can't go in offending them.
Okay.
And I'm not saying we shouldn't be strong about our feelings, but there are ways of putting things that you can get things done.
Well, again, so just trying to look for some direction, bring us back a resolution that has these components, I guess, would be more or less, if we've, and I think the board has done good work today and really considered all the submittals and thought about what happened. And so I think we're at the point where at least two of the board wants to direct staff to work on something, but a little more sideboards is all I think I'm looking for.
Commissioner Boyce?
I just disagree with your premise that we might offend them. All we want them to do is follow the laws, plain and simple. What I'm going to propose here is to bring back a resolution combining, and if it's not something the board can adopt and support, then I will personally, as a board member, drop it from at least 2 or 3 months and just leave it at that. So that would be an incentive for our people to take all these into consideration and account. We'll go from there. That would be my proposal.
Well, and I totally agree with you that they should be abiding by the Forest Service laws
Well,
that are
they're
in
not.
place.
So,
Okay, so if
okay.
they're not, then, you know, that needs to be addressed.
And the best reference I give you to that is ONC Timber. They're not abiding by the laws. That's why the counties are taking them to court. We have no choice. The counties in Oregon, the 17, have no choice because they will not allow more than 200 million board feet, and they're required to do 500 million every year, and it's growing by 1.2 billion every year. That's why we have fires. Everything good comes from the forest, and if we don't manage it well, Oregon's going to lose its incredible opportunities. Thank you.
Okay, I think that's pretty well settled. Let's move on to road fund loans. Administrator Hitt?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioners, at our last workshop where this was brought up, there was a desire on the part of one commissioner not to pursue a potential ordinance that would define standards for lending of road funds to other governmental agencies as per the recently adopted state law. And one commissioner said did want to consider standards. So I leave it to you today, now that all 3 of you are here, to decide whether you want to see on a future agenda an actual draft county ordinance defining standards and situations under which the county would in the future consider the lending of county road funds to other governmental entities. And you can see, as part of your agenda packet, conceptual policy guidelines for lending Curry County road funds to other governmental entities. So I think really it's a two-step process. One, decide whether you want to see anything at all in the way of a future ordinance on this subject matter. And if the answer to that is yes, whether you consider that the draft guidelines are approximately on target, too demanding or not demanding enough as far as establishing standards under which the Board of Commissioners might in the future approve a loan of county road funds to another governmental entity.
Okay, why don't I just go around and everybody give your opinion. Commissioner Boyce?
Could we real quickly, Administrator Head, refer to number 10 in your guidelines? Just a quick clarification.
Yes, so what the guidelines propose is actually would require 2 public hearings before a loan would be approved, and one public hearing to basically discuss and get public input as far as whether the loan should be considered at all, and then another follow-up public hearing after formal if the answer, and then the vote of the commission, and the vote of the commission is positive to continue to look at the potential loan, then to come back with a second public hearing where the actual formal loan agreement and loan requirements would be outlined for that particular loan, and then again require a second vote of the county commissioners, again after a second public hearing, after everybody knows the specifics of a proposed loan. Then that would require a second vote.
Will you just answer my question? If it
Okay.
would be a vote after each one.
Okay, I think the issue is, are you in favor of a policy or not? Yes or no?
Well, I have some questions about the guidelines before I can offer
Well,
an
no,
opinion.
we're not saying this policy, we're just saying a policy in general, and then we'll get into the details of this policy. How's that? Are
Well,
you in favor of having a policy? That's a real easy one, yes or no?
That's, you know, I'm looking at our 2 options here, and I think there should be a third option, so that's why I'm hesitating, Madam Chair. You know, I am in favor of having a policy. I just don't know if it's going to be something that we're going to need spending more time on for this year. That would be up to discussion with the board here, and
Okay, so you're in
got that
favor of
look.
policy. Okay,
Well,
Commissioner
are you
Huxley?
calling- Are you calling this a policy, or are we calling it an ordinance? You know, conceptually, what we had originally talked about in many discussions was an ordinance to address, call it policy, or call that ordinance a policy, but that ordinance to be put to the people in the form of a ballot measure for them to agree and accept or approve that policy. Now and
Yeah, we
we've
did
always
discuss
talked
that.
as far as an ordinance, but to be approved by the people, so the people were okay with the procedures and the policy used to approve those, but that they have the final say, not the Board of Commissioners, initially or originally. Good.
Yeah, thank you, Madam
Administrator
Chair. There's really two questions here I think Commissioner Huxley's raising. One is, which you have already articulated, do we want a policy, i.e., which would be expressed in a form of an ordinance? So that would be staff's recommendation. If you do want a policy, that policy be expressed in a formal ordinance. So that's question number one. Question number two, would after that ordinance, assuming that ordinance is approved at some future time, then would you want to refer that ordinance before it's actually becomes effective, refer that to a vote of the voter, a vote of the people? So two separate questions. My own personal recommendation, just to give you a head start, as far as referring it to the voters, if you look at my policy guidelines here, assuming you want policy guidelines, i.e. an ordinance that would reflect standards similar to this, these are fairly complex. I don't know that the average voter would fully understand, and I'm not trying to demean anybody or be elitist. I'm just saying that sometimes these more complex issues are a little difficult to refer. Obviously, if the board chooses to refer to the voters, I mean, we can certainly do that. And I would suggest probably the best time to do that would be the 2018 general election in November of this year.
Commissioner Boyce?
it is complex. That's why they put us here, to do the hard work. And so it does not need to go, no indifference or disrespect to voters whatsoever, but they're counting on us. That's representative government to do our job here. I'm going to propose that we not adopt any guidelines at this point in time for House Bill 3435 as it relates to Curry County and entities that taxing districts that might need a boost, help, assistance.
So you're changing your mind?
I am. Now that I've just got some concerns clarified, and so that would be my position at this moment.
And I
Commissioner
would
Huxley?
motion that we do. So,
I strongly think we need to have some sort of ordinance or policy in place before we are inundated with requests for loans. And I think that's what the public would want. That's my opinion. Okay, so,
If I may,
yes, Commissioner Boyce.
the very beginning here says a clear and compelling public need or benefit. Isn't that what we're trying to accomplish here in the interest of the county? When one of our 44, 45, however many it is, taxing districts needs help, it goes down here, and this is a very, as the administrator had said, a very complex 12-point with sub portions. You know, what is our goal here? Is it to benefit the county and help? I don't know. If you went back the last 3 or 4 boards, I don't think any of them would have accepted, and I like the unanimous approval, by the way, requirement in these proposed guidelines. I don't think any of those boards would have been careless in making any improper or high-risk loans.
I'm,
Thank you.
okay, I'm still very much in favor of having an ordinance.
I would make a motion. Well, no, I can't.
You
We're not here
can't.
to make
This is a
decisions.
workshop, sorry.
Consensus or, But
Okay,
that
it
is
sounds
my
like we
position.
have
Actually, you
Just
just
two
as we
did make a
did,
motion,
just as
I
we did
think.
in the prior, just as we
I
did in the
think.
prior. We had agreement of two commissioners,
Right.
and I am one that would
Okay.
propose that we,
I just think we would be advocating our fiduciary responsibilities by not putting forth some sort of guidelines.
But do you feel like these are strict, middle of the road, not strict enough? Just asking for your personal opinion?
You're talking to me?
Yes, yes, ma'am, I'm sorry.
I like them. I think we need to be very careful about who we lend the money to because these are our road funds. And if we're lending them out to entities that can't pay back, we've got a problem there.
Even though you know it's through the House Bill 3435, it is got very solid security through their through their tax district funds.
If I may, Madam Chair, with all
Forgive
due
me for
respect.
interrupting.
Yeah,
I'm
no, with
sorry.
all due respect to you, Commissioner Boyce, I disagree. I understand the desire and the interest of Representative Smith in bringing that bill forward. Unfortunately, it only has two requirements: that the loan not be extended beyond 20 years and that the borrowing entity not have had a default in the last 5 years. And that's at least a start as far as guidelines, but in my mind, to again really protect the fiduciary interests of the county, I think we should have significantly more strict limits.
Totally agreed. Commissioner Huxley.
I think we were a tie on our hands, but,
Okay.
We had also
Both of you.
addressed, documentation-wise at a previous meeting, or meetings, plural, investing public funds that followed the existing Oregon statutes, and it was extremely little to no risk. They were requirements made of municipalities for investing. It was very specific, and even to most of the limits under almost any investment scenario was not to exceed, I think it was 1 year, 2 years max. I believe it was just 1 year in almost all cases. But it was very specific, and most of the statutes that were referenced there, the language is reflected, I think, in most of the points that Administrator Hitt has addressed. This wasn't creating additional things over existing investment policy for municipalities in Oregon. It's
And some
little
very
risk,
good
little
financial
risk.
people wrote that information, I
little
would.
risk.
Yes.
It's a little bit of follow-up, and here I'm not sure, so I might punt to Councilor Huddle and see if he has any ideas. These guidelines, which this mostly reflects, the investment guidelines that are in ORS, I think it's 294, and other places in the state rules, administrative rules. I'm not sure if those apply in the case of this particular ORS that was passed that allowed the lending of road funds to other public entities. But regardless of whether that was intended or not, I agree with the thrust of these guidelines that this is something that would be wise for us to follow.
Just one
Commissioner
last
Boyd.
question. Thank you. So it's your view, Administrator Hitt, that within the bill, there is not adequate secured collateral for these potential loans?
In my opinion, yes, that's correct. Not adequate collateral and protection. Now, what I don't know is when the bill was written, whether the intent was in mind or there's some other ORS that includes adoption of these requirements that would go along with that Senator David Brock-Smith's bill. That I don't know. That's why I was kind of punting to a little bit and unfairly, because I certainly didn't give any advance notice of my question, and it's a fairly complicated one. However, again, I would fall back on what is, in my view, wise. And again, I've been in my career involved with quite a large number of municipal bond issues. And these guidelines follow very close to not only what's in the state laws, but my own experience with the issuance of municipal bonds, which is what we're really talking about here, because we're making a loan to another entity, municipal entity, and so it would then track, in my mind, very close to that municipal entity, or ourselves, for example, wanting to go out and issue municipal bonds.
Okay. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Okay, so I guess we'll give you the authority to proceed and bring something back to us.
And this, because it is complicated, Madam Chair and Commissioners, I just might add, it'll probably be a month or so before we can bring this back. But
Right, and we won't be lending any money until
Yeah,
we get
okay,
this
very
in
good.
place, so just to let you know.
Okay.
Can I recommend that we not, I know we didn't just put a date, but I'd say absolutely no hurry.
Good.
That's just my personal view here, or individual view.
For the chair, the bill that this 34, 35, this is basically the bill.
Right,
It's very short.
and I read
not
that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay,
And
moving on.
Sorry, but Mr. Chair, doesn't that bill say that the local government can impose security, requirements on any lending?
Well, it references back notwithstanding certain statutes. It does say also the amount of operating taxes, blah, 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 for a period of 20 consecutive years. So it opens up things that are totally contrary to the typical existing statutes for almost all, and I say that versus all, almost all municipal investments. And certainly those in the pool, which are a great majority of those investments. I believe it's 12 months. It's a very short time. So I don't know if that answered your
I think I was looking at a
Question.
different, looking for
Okay.
a different part of the bill, but that's
Okay.
okay. I'll try to find my copy. But
Okay.
If you're ready, but it seems like the direction to staff is to bring something back, so.
Moving on, we've got Curry County-wide Chamber of Commerce and Visitor Promotion. Commissioner Boyce?
Administrator Hitt, thanks for letting me get this on last minute.
You're welcome. Might not have done it if it had been a general meeting, but for a
Did I
workshop.
make it under the wire?
Yeah, but for a workshop, I'm more flexible.
Well, short, I know you don't think I can be short, but I'm gonna
Okay,
make you
I've
proud
got a
here.
clock up here.
I was in the tourism business for a long time. I think the state of Oregon is making some really good strides. You've heard me say before that our 3 cities are managed quite well, I'm proud to say. The basic concept here is, and I'll just reference one fairly good report I had, just a small portion here. No need to create another organization to do what 3 others, that's the key 2 words there, 3 others are already addressing, plus the work of Travel Oregon and any existing functional chambers. The chambers are, of course, business and tourism promotion, but they're struggling in Curry County. One of the things that people seem to resonate with when I decided to run for this office was the county needs to come together. The county needs to come together in a variety of ways. Tourism promotion in the chambers, I think there is a lot of rationale behind anything the county can do to benefit and encourage joint efforts. I am aware of the Bandon to Brookings, sometimes it's referred to as a Reedsport to Brookings, but nobody has what we have. And I think that if we, over time, work with the cities and maybe pull them in or vice versa to perhaps a different way of approaching this, I think that I think there's some great benefit to just simply offering the idea that the Curry Coast or a Curry County promoted effort and would be very good for our county and an opportunity to bring people together and just coordinate. And that's basically the principle behind this, and I had some good information come when this come back to my office and through the email. I don't have anything to offer really beyond that, except just the general concept I think has a long-term benefit for the county, and I will continue to just try and find more reasons to promote this and get the cities on board.
Do you have anything to say, Commissioner
I
Huxley?
had a question, because there was, aside from the agenda routing step, there was one page that said January 3rd, 2018, re Curry County Chamber of Commerce, Curry County Board of Commissioners. Was that document from you then?
Which one now?
This one. I think you sent that out, Commissioner Boyce?
That was in the
Oh, I didn't
packet.
sign
Is
it,
that
did I?
from you?
No, you didn't.
Yes.
But that was from
It was
Commissioner
in-
Boyce.
Okay, it was in the packet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was.
Okay, okay.
I'll make sure to put my John Henry on that from now on.
I guess I have some concerns about this because I did a little research as far as Chamber of Commerce. What's the goal of a Chamber of Commerce? And it's a local organization of businesses whose goal is to further the interests of the businesses. Now, some of the business are tourism, I realize that, but I don't think that's our purview to be setting up a county-wide Chamber of Commerce. And it talks about businesses and owners in towns and cities form these local societies to advocate on behalf of the businesses in the community. So that's what the chamber's goal is.
Yeah, and I could, if I may, I could be wrong, but that's something the county could do very, very well. This whole idea of encouraging Parks Department representatives to maybe take a look at this. This all came before the Chamber and the City of Brookings had quite a meeting recently, and it looks like some good things have come out of that. And so maybe, you know, I had the ARS in before I read that article, and I was not at that City Council
Well,
meeting.
and actually, the city of Gold Beach, Brookings, Port Orford, Bandham, they're all working together on the tourism thing right now. They've got a booth set up at one of the national things, so I think this is happening. I don't think this is the chamber's main goal, to be honest with you.
Well, there is some individual promotion within the cities, and I mean, that's just a matter of opinion on what would be the most effective for the dollars spent. And, you know, I'm a county person, so naturally I'm gonna try and offer legitimacy to why I think that it would be a greater benefit in a really connected, combined way. And I understand and agree fully with the delineation between the chambers and the business responsibilities and the local, but they're all struggling. They've all really worked hard. They're lacking enough volunteers, and so I thought the county might be in a good position to help coordinate that and assist. That's all.
We decided no. Sorry about that. But you can talk to us after. How's that? Okay, so any other more comments on this idea of county-wide chamber? Okay, hearing no other.
Oh, if I may just question
Yes.
a clarification, Madam
Mhm.
Chair. So at this point, I assume you're not providing any direction to staff to pursue this further. Am I correct?
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay.
I would agree.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
Okay, moving on, we're going to close this meeting and go into an executive session. So everybody gets to leave.
Madam Chair, you're supposed to explain the statutory basis of the executive
Oh,
session.
the executive session is 192.660.2 to consider the employment of a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual agent.
Thank you.
Oh, we kick everybody out except for the press. They have to keep quiet.
If yours is the next big idea and you need the right place to fine-tune it, build it, launch it, if you're only your best when you can play more than you work, if inspiration comes from the outside, you belong in Curry County. The westernmost point of the land you love and the edge between familiar and uncharted. Break the pattern. Be where the airports are as close as the beaches, and industry and recreation never cease to amaze. Dock, dive, and dine in a single day, and never lose your connection. This is the threshold of the West. Live where you can do you and do it well, at the farthest point from ordinary. Curry County, living on the edge.
One of the things I really appreciate about our entire region is that we embrace who we are, and I think that's what unifies us. Once the timber and fishing industries collapsed, it took us a long time to get back on our feet. People didn't quite grasp the idea that once these jobs left, they weren't going to get other family wage jobs, and it crippled us.
Things were getting really dire. So we just saw that this was an opportunity to maybe look at that public land a little differently and how it could bring more dollars into our region.
The Wild Rivers Coast is so unique because there are more wild and scenic rivers here than anywhere else in the lower 48 states. The scenic beauty is just amazing. There's so many different places to go, from the national forest down to the protected ocean, and it's just a really special place.
I guess I didn't really know how special it was, though, until I moved away to Portland and came back and saw all the potential here.
We're uncrowded, we're unspoiled, and we're a little difficult to get to, but my God, once you come here, you fall in love.
We just thought if we could pull people to come into this Wild Rivers Coast and stay longer and explore a little farther into our backcountry, there was a lot of opportunities for them to experience.
I think our whole future is at stake here. This area is ready to go. We just need to give it a little kick in the butt.
I'm gonna be honest, when the Rural Tourism Studio came here, I was skeptical because I didn't see far enough ahead that we actually could collaborate regionally, and I'm pleasantly surprised. It's been amazing.
The Rural Tourism Studios was the first time we were able to come together as a region to talk about the future of our economy.
If we can have a strong tourism economy in this area, it's gonna benefit the whole community.
We have to rely on ourselves, and I think through this program, it's sort of opened our eyes to what we could do when we work together. Community leaders really focused on 3 areas: outdoor recreation, food and agricultural tourism, and really building community relationships.
In our area, a lot of the food that's grown all gets shipped away. And so now we're realizing that we can capture some of that local food that's grown here. The Eat Fresh and Local Action Team has hosted a series of networking events bringing together the area growers with the area vendors so that we could have more local food available to the visitors to our area. And now we're seeing more local food in our grocery stores, in our restaurants, and we have a new local food co-op.
We created a farm trail from Bandon to Port Orford. We did 9 U-Pick farms, and it just gained traction, and people loved it.
Langlois is less than 500 people. It's very small. So we have to bring in tourists. And being on the farm trail, even though it's just beginning, has really helped do that. We really want to make it a destination for anybody. My mom and I began Dragonfly Farm just 3 years ago. When I found out that I could grow a seed and turn that into food, it was like, oh my gosh, why wouldn't you do this? I just quit my day job and I just signed the paper to be an official co-owner of the farm. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life and grow with the community.
Out of the Outdoor Recreation Action Team, we came up with a series of maps that show where the best places to go recreate are. We know where we're going to send people now, and we got a great map that shows all the best places to go see.
For us to get a mapping project done to this extent is pretty impressive. We're patting ourselves on the back. I don't know anybody else is, but we're doing it.
From that, we decided that there was some places that needed help. So we came up with a mountain bike plan, and we also worked on designating a state scenic bikeway. The Outdoor Recreation Action Team was also looking at how we can make scuba diving better in this area. So we came up with the idea for a scuba fill station. So now people that want to come and dive in this area, they can dive for multiple days because they can get their tanks filled up again. When I started the Rural Tourism Studio, my business, South Coast Tours, was really small. And now we've grown to about 5 or 6 guides, and we're doing tours all over from Brookings all the way up to Coos Bay.
Overall, tourism is on the rise here. We've had a bang-up last 2 years, and it's like a breath of fresh air down here.
My hope for the area is that we still keep that sense of place.
Loving a place to death is a big concern that I have, and it's a balance. We're going to promote tourism, but we want to do it in a sustainable way. One of the biggest reasons that this area has been so successful since the tourism studio is the people that are involved. We have a lot of great, motivated, smart people who understand the need to promote tourism in the right way, and it's really all about the people.
When you live in a rural community like we do, from Bandon down to Brookings, and you're strapped for cash, relationships are crucial.
As a community, I think you need to come together and find out what your mission and goals are collectively. Then you can work into smaller groups, knowing that you have the backing of the whole community behind you.
As long as everybody's just super excited about it and passionate about what they're doing and they can work together, then anything's possible.
Own what you have and don't try to be something that you're not. It's gonna be hard. It's gonna take a long time, so roll up your sleeves and just dig in with an open mind.
What draws you to the Oregon coast? Is it the green and blue surf on a brilliant sunny day, or angry, boiling waves during a raging winter storm? Do you prefer quiet coves or powerful breakers churning the sand? How about sand castles? Do you come for the rising tide or the setting sun, to marvel at whales gliding through the sea or flying in the sky? Reasons to travel the Pacific Coast Scenic Byway are as far-reaching as your imagination. This is a spectacular part of Oregon that traces the entire coastline along Highway 101, guiding you to the sea and away again, to coastal towns big and small, lowland marshes, and breathtaking overlooks. It's a long byway stretching from the mouth of the Columbia River to the California border, 363 miles in all, of some of the most unblemished, awe-inspiring seascapes you'll find anywhere. In addition to its designation as a scenic byway, Highway 101 in Oregon also has been selected as an all-American road. That means when you come here, you will experience one of only 31 roads considered to be the best of the best in America.
You know, when people come to the Oregon coast, they're really astonished how beautiful it is. And what separates it from many of the other places in North America that are coastal is how undeveloped it is. And that's because Oregon had a very far-sighted land use program back in the 1970s. We have all these wonderful state parks along the scenic byway that are perfect places to stop and enjoy nature in a relatively unspoiled way.
From the north, you begin in Astoria, the first permanent European settlement in the Pacific Northwest. It's a genuine maritime community with ship traffic from around the world seeking harbor up the Columbia. The official State Maritime Museum of Oregon sits here on the river. Beautiful Victorian houses dot the hillside. And standing 600 feet above sea level is the 125-foot Astoria Column. It features a hand-painted spiral frieze that would stretch over 500 feet if unwound. Heading south, you'll find the community of Seaside, a popular vacation spot that offers miles of public beaches, an oceanfront promenade, and a downtown core packed with restaurants, shops, and even a beach-type arcade. Cannon Beach is home to one of Oregon's most photographed natural wonders, Haystack Rock. Get your shots from the beach, or take a short drive up to Ecola State Park and look down on this 235-foot work of art. The picturesque small town is filled with art galleries, shops, and cafes. Ready for more? 10 miles to the south, this is the view from Cape Falcon. You're 700 feet above the Pacific. Here, the Pacific Coast Byway has been carved out of Neahkahnie Mountain and held in place by stone walls built in the 1930s by craftsmen in the Civilian Conservation Corps. Upon descending the mountain, the highway drifts inward around Tillamook Bay to Tillamook, the unofficial dairy capital of Oregon. The verdant valley of dairy farms in this area produces 25 million gallons of milk annually. Much of that is processed into natural cheddar cheese. And near more than 800 miles of navigable waters, Tillamook is a crossroads for North Coast recreation. From here, you owe it to yourself to veer off Highway 101 to explore the Three Capes Scenic Loop. This drive places you right at the beach, beginning with Cape Mears, home to the shortest lighthouse in Oregon. 9 lighthouses stand sentinel along Oregon's coastline. They're monuments to our maritime heritage, towering links to the past, and as much a part of the rugged Oregon coastal landscape as any offshore monolith. The Cape Mears Lighthouse was first illuminated in 1890. Oregon's oldest lighthouse is at Cape Blanco, the westernmost point in the state. It was commissioned in 1870 to aid shipping generated by gold mining and the lumber industry. The 93-foot-high Yaquina Head Lighthouse is the tallest in Oregon. Today, its automated light continues to aid navigation at the entrance to Yaquina Bay. Many of the lighthouses are open to the public. Most happen to be excellent places to view nesting seabirds and offshore sea life. Tide pools, those rocky areas between high and low tides, support unique and diverse plants and animals. Vast amounts of colorful, otherworldly creatures wait to be discovered. But walk cautiously. These organisms are tough enough to withstand the pounding surf, but are utterly vulnerable to human activity. Wildlife and sea life abound on the coast.
There are 6 national wildlife refuges along the Oregon coast. The Pacific Coast Scenic Byway bisects these refuges or goes alongside them. It provides you the opportunity to see a wide variety of abundant wildlife, including seabirds, seals and sea lions, deer and elk, and many other wildlife.
Cape Kiwanda lies at the southern end of the Three Capes Scenic Loop, near the town of Pacific City. Here you'll find a second Haystack Rock on the byway. Hike up the dune to marvel at stunning views of sandstone formations as they turn yellow, gold, or even red in the changing sunlight. If your timing is right, you'll spot one or two of the dory fleet sprint onto the beach after a day of fishing. How's this for a dinner setting? Restaurants along the Pacific Coast Scenic Byway accommodate just about any taste. Many serve an ocean view with every meal. Up and down the coast, you'll find seafood, of course, but don't limit yourself just because you're by the water. The Central Coast begins around Lincoln City, which is one of the larger communities on the byway. It has a reputation for being windy and was recognized by Kite Lines magazine as the best place to fly a kite in North America. It was incorporated from several small towns and as a result offers a sandy beach that is 7.5 miles long. A number of small state parks lie nestled along the ocean between Lincoln City and Newport. Stop, get out of your car, and take in the commanding views that are there, right next to your all-American road. Depot Bay boasts the world's smallest navigable harbor, 6 square acres in all. A seawall runs the length of the downtown, so everywhere you go, you're rewarded with a dramatic view of the Pacific. It's considered Oregon's whale-watching capital, with thousands making their way past Oregon each fall and spring. Fishing and whale-watching excursions regularly set sail from this little harbor. Leaving Depot Bay, you'll soon find yourself at Cape Foulweather, a basalt outcropping that looms 500 feet above the water. It was here, in 1778, British Captain James Cook first sighted the mainland of North America on the Pacific coast. A fierce storm that almost put an end to his expedition earned this rugged stretch of coastline its name. Coastal weather can change by the hour. You will find a lot of wet days, but rain can become blue sky with white clouds in an afternoon. Mist kissing the headlands burns away, or storms can last for days. Some people come for those storms. Whether you find sunbursts of happiness or cloud cover like a quilt, there's always a reason to come back. Like Lincoln City, Newport is one of the larger towns on the byway. The historic bayfront on the north side of Yaquina Bay hosts one of Oregon's largest commercial fishing fleets. It has a busy, genuine working waterfront feel, with fish plants and boats coming and going from as far away as Alaska. On the south side of the bay is the Oregon Coast Aquarium. Share waters beneath the ocean with sharks and rays. And don't miss the sea otters at mealtime.
Now, all 4 of our otters were rescued otters. They were found out in the wild.
For the next 50 miles, your trip along Highway 101 hugs the coast. Many more state parks offer opportunities to stop and take in outstanding vistas, crashing waves, and offshore rock formations. 2 small towns of note are Waldport and Yachats. Waldport sits on Alsea Bay, where fishing, clamming, and crabbing are popular. The 40-mile stretch south of Waldport marks steep headlands, jagged volcanic outcrops, and jaw-dropping scenery, the rugged edge of the Oregon coast. Yachats is a quiet, unhurried artist town just a couple of miles north of Cape Perpetua. Drive to the top of this bluff, and you'll be 800 feet above the water. On a clear day, you can see 70 miles of Oregon coastline. Drive past Heceta Head Lighthouse to the Sea Lion Caves. A quick elevator ride 200 feet down puts you in America's largest sea cave, the year-round home of wild stellar sea lions. Rugged cliffs give way to graceful beaches as you approach Florence. In the spring, be on the lookout for wild rhododendrons along the roadsides. Similar to Newport, you'll find an historic Old Town commercial district along the Siuslaw River. Florence is the gateway to the Oregon Dunes National Recreation Area, a 47-mile sandbox of wind-sculpted sand dunes towering 500 feet above sea level. These are the largest expanse of coastal sand dunes in North America. Reedsport is at the center of the Oregon Dunes, but you can do more than ride a dune buggy or motorcycle. A short 3 miles east of town on Highway 38, more than 100 Roosevelt elk reside at the Dean Creek Elk Viewing Area. Early mornings or just before dusk are the best times to photograph the herd. Paying homage to Oregon's timber heritage, Reedsport hosts an annual Chainsaw Sculpting Championship, a time to watch 3-dimensional artwork come to life right before your eyes. Mountains of sand continue at Winchester Bay. You'll also find an active marina here. It's a great place to try your hand at crabbing or take a charter for salmon or bottom fishing. The dunes end and you enter the coast's largest urban area at Coos Bay. It has the deepest natural harbor between Seattle and San Francisco. Foreign vessels sail under the massive McCullough Bridge. You may have noticed, dotted along the Pacific Coast Scenic Byway are many beautiful and iconic bridges. The Megler Bridge in Astoria, Yaquina Bay Bridge in Newport, Alsea Bay Bridge in Waldport, Siuslaw River Bridge in Florence, and the magnificent McCullough Bridge in Coos Bay are works of art in their own right. Charleston is slightly off the byway at the mouth of the bay. It was once an old waterfront fishing village and has become a commercial and sport fishing center. From here, the Charleston to Bandon tour route offers another side trip off the byway. It's a wonderful way to explore a variety of natural Pacific Coast beauty in a number of settings: beaches, vistas, gardens, and more. Giant sea stacks, a tiny lighthouse, and an old town await you in Bandon. Do you like to golf? This remote area on the Oregon coast has not one, but 3 of the most stunning and challenging golf courses in the world. As you drive south of town, look for brilliant red bogs in the fall. You're passing through the cranberry capital of Oregon. After a trek through forests and farmlands, you'll reach Port Orford. The wild coast has begun. You're in the most westerly city in the continental United States, and you've reached some of the most awesome scenery on the byway. Here you can watch a fishing fleet launched by crane in one of only 6 dolly ports in the world. Port Orford covers less than 2 square miles. It's similar to many communities that call this all-American road home. Small in size, still with a lot to offer. Like Manzanita, with a vibrant business district and beautiful setting at the base of Neahkahnie Mountain. You can board a fishing charter out of Garibaldi, swim in freshwater lakes near Dune City, catch world-class windsurfing at Pistol River. There is little development from Port Orford to Gold Beach, outlet for the renowned Rogue River. Feel like going for a ride? Jet boat excursions run from May into October up this wild and scenic river. Or maybe a midday walk on an uncrowded beach is more your speed. The last dozen miles of the Pacific Coast Byway leading into Brookings save some of the best for last. Treat yourself to frequent stops along the Samuel H. Boardman Scenic Corridor. Short hikes reward you with the best views in this shining stretch of coastline. Walk, relax, and be amazed along the coves in the crashing surf. The world's northernmost redwood grove is 8 miles from the mouth of the Chetco River in Brookings. So, you've toured nature's finest art museum. You've dined elegantly, hung out with sea lions, unwound like you wish you could every day. What else is there to do? Step back in history near Astoria. Ride a horse along the way.
Oh, an executive session? No.
No. We're still in a workshop. We're coming back into a workshop, so we can't make.
You could, though, just have a consensus statement.
Okay.
I might give it a shot. Good. When we come out.
Okay.
All right.
Because you can give direction to staff.
So, at workshops, exactly. Yep.
Right. Somebody coming? Oh, Charles. Okay, Charles says we're good.
Okay, we're now out of executive session. No decisions were made, but we do have some direction for staff. The direction is to come up with a contract for Administrator Hitt regarding being an independent contractor as our administrator for the next year.
And any decision on that will be made,
Any
at the time.
decision
Sure,
on
when
that
it's
will
brought
be
back.
made at the next
Yeah,
meeting.
Very good. Well, not the next one, but when it's brought back, sure. Which may be the next one.
Well,
That'd be
when it's brought
ambitious.
back.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, this workshop is adjourned. It's been a wonderful workshop, by the way.
Yeah, you beat the noon hour there. Nice job. Yeah, congratulations.
Fantastic.